If you are like most people living in the modern world, you sit in your car on the way to work, you sit at a desk for 8 hours, you sit on the commute home, and then, exhausted, you sit on the couch to unwind. Welcome to Dr. Levitas. We all know that sitting too much makes us feel stiff, maybe a little achy. But what if I told you that the chair you are sitting in right now is doing something far more insidious? It is not just making your muscles tight. It is actively severing the neurological connection between your brain and the single largest, most powerful muscle group in your entire body. You are inducing a localized neurological coma. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a modern epidemic that is quietly destroying posture, joints, and metabolic health. We are talking about the sitting disease, and specifically, a very real medically documented condition known as gluteal amnesia, or as it is more commonly called in sports medicine, dead butt syndrome. And more importantly, how you can wake your body back up. Please hit the like button and leave a comment. Your engagement is a huge help to the channel. So, what exactly is gluteal amnesia? To understand this, we have to look at how the brain communicates with the body. Your gluteus maximus is the king of your muscular system. Evolutionarily, it is the engine that allowed human beings to stand upright, run, and thrive. But muscle tissue is incredibly metabolically expensive to maintain. If your brain senses that a muscle isn't being used, it stops sending electrical signals to it to conserve energy. When you sit down, you are physically resting all of your upper body weight directly onto your gluteus muscles. This constant, heavy pressure physically compresses the nerves and the microscopic blood vessels leading into the tissue. The literal physical squishing of the muscle cuts off optimal blood flow and dampens the electrical signals from the sciatic nerve network. Over time, and we are talking about just a few weeks of consistent, prolonged sitting, your brain begins to forget how to recruit these muscle fibers. The neural pathways become rusty. This is gluteal amnesia. You try to use the muscle, but the neurological switch has been flipped to the off position. But it gets deeper than just pressure. We have to talk about a fundamental principle of human biomechanics called reciprocal inhibition. Your muscles work in pairs. When one muscle contracts, the opposing muscle must relax to allow for the movement. Now, look at the geometry of the seated position. When you sit, your hips are flexed at a 90-degree angle. This means your hip flexors, the muscles on the front of your pelvis, are constantly in a shortened, contracted state. Because of reciprocal inhibition, when your hip flexors are locked in this shortened, tight position for 8 hours a day, your nervous system automatically sends a continuous inhibitory signal to the opposing muscle group to keep it relaxed. And what is the opposing muscle group? Your glutes. Your own nervous system is chemically and electrically forcing your glutes to stay completely turned off all day long. And when muscle tissue is completely turned off, it does not just sit there in suspended animation. It begins to break down with terrifying speed. In clinical studies examining muscle immobilization and bed rest, which, biochemically, is very similar to sitting completely still at a desk, researchers have found that muscle protein synthesis begins to plummet within just 24 to 48 hours of total inactivity. By day 5 of profound disuse, actual structural atrophy begins. The muscle fibers begin to shrink. We used to think muscle loss only happened as we aged, but the reality is we are actively inducing atrophy in our 20s, 30s, and 40s simply by not standing up. Now, you might be thinking, okay, my glutes are a little weak. Why does that matter if I just work at a computer? Here is why it matters. Human movement requires force. If your main engine is offline, that physical force doesn't just disappear. It gets violently transferred to the most vulnerable joints in your body. Your glutes are designed to be the primary shock absorbers and the main source of power whenever you walk, run, or lift something off the floor. When you suffer from gluteal amnesia, your body still has to get the job done, so it forces smaller, weaker structures to compensate. Suddenly, your lower back, your lumbar spine, which is designed for stability, not heavy lifting, is forced to act as a primary mover. The tiny erector muscles along your spine take on the load your glutes were supposed to handle. This is the root cause of the epidemic of chronic, unexplained lower back pain. But it doesn't stop there. When your glutes are weak, they cannot stabilize your femurs, your thigh bones. So, Every time you take a step, your femur slightly collapses inward. Over thousands of steps, this micro-collapse transfers a massive, destructive shearing force directly into your knee joints. If you have chronic knee pain or a lower back that constantly aches, the problem might not be your back or your knees. The problem is very likely that your primary engine is asleep at the wheel. But the consequences of the sitting disease extend far beyond biomechanics. It is fundamentally destroying your metabolic health and your body's ability to process fuel. Let's talk about an incredible enzyme called lipoprotein lipase, or LPL. Lipoprotein lipase is a fat-burning enzyme located in the walls of the capillaries that supply your muscles, particularly your large postural muscles like the glutes and legs. Its job is to grab circulating fats, triglycerides, out of your bloodstream and pull them into the muscle to be used for energy. It is one of your body's primary mechanisms for maintaining healthy cholesterol levels and preventing fat from accumulating around your organs. In the early 2000s, groundbreaking research discovered something terrifying about LPL. The activity of this enzyme is directly tied to muscular contraction. When you sit completely still, the muscular contractions in your lower body drop to zero. And within just a few hours of sitting, the activity of lipoprotein lipase plummets by up to 90%. Let that sink in. By simply sitting at a desk, you are turning off your body's primary fat-clearing mechanism by 90%. The fats you eat have nowhere to go, so they remain in your bloodstream, driving up systemic inflammation and contributing to long-term metabolic dysfunction. So, what is the standard advice? We are told to go to the gym for an hour after work. But here is the harsh reality of the inflamed gains and the sitting disease paradox. You cannot undo 8 continuous hours of neurological suppression and metabolic shutdown with 45 minutes on an elliptical machine at 6 p.m. If you walk into a gym with gluteal amnesia and you load up a barbell to do heavy squats or deadlifts, your glutes will not fire. Your lower back will take the weight and you will get injured. Before you ever lift a heavy weight, if you are a desk worker, you must perform specific neurological activation drills. You have to remind the brain how to talk to the muscle. You need to incorporate movements that isolate the glutes without involving the lower back. Exercises like the clamshell, which targets the gluteus medius for pelvic stability. The bodyweight glute bridge, where you actively squeeze and hold the contraction at the top, physically forcing the neurological connection to re-establish itself. And the bird dog, which trains the core and the glutes to work together in harmony while keeping the spine completely neutral. These are not just warm-ups, they are neurological rewiring protocols. They are non-negotiable if you sit for a living. But how do we solve the metabolic side? How do we keep that fat-burning LPL enzyme active all day long? The answer is not a longer gym session. The scientifically proven answer is a concept called exercise snacking. Exercise snacking is the practice of breaking up your sedentary time with tiny, frequent bursts of movement. Research shows that standing up and moving for just 2 minutes every single hour is vastly more effective at keeping lipoprotein lipase active than sitting for 8 hours and doing a massive workout at the end of the day. When you stand up, squeeze your glutes, do a few air squats, or just walk to the water cooler, you are turning the electrical grid of your lower body back on. You are flushing the compressed tissues with fresh, oxygenated blood. You are sending a signal to your DNA that you are still an active, moving human being, and your body responds by turning those metabolic enzymes back to their maximum capacity. Here is the doctor's verdict: rebuild the neural pathways. The human body is an absolute miracle of adaptation. It adapts to exactly what we ask it to do. If we ask it to sit in a chair all day, it will mold itself into the shape of that chair, turning off the engines it no longer needs. But the moment you demand movement, the moment you demand strength, your body will eagerly rebuild those neural pathways. You do not have to be a victim of the modern sedentary lifestyle. By understanding the biomechanics of your own body, by prioritizing neurological activation, and by sprinkling small moments of movement throughout your day, you can cure gluteal amnesia. You can protect your joints, ignite your metabolism, and reclaim the powerful upright posture you were biologically designed to have. Leave a comment below. What is one way you are going to incorporate an exercise snack into your workday tomorrow? Stand up, stretch out, And until next time, keep moving and take care of your glutes. Watch this video suggestion. It was especially picked for you. Please share, comment, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you. It helps a ton with the algorithm. Remain tuned for future videos and keep growing.